Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is my November wrap-up part 1. So really quickly, I'm just going to tell you guys that I am participating in NaNoWriMo. I started out vlogging the first few days, found it was too overwhelming, so I'm not vlogging NaNoWriMo, but I am finishing my book. So tension is so high. And I've read a lot because either I'm writing or I'm reading, and there's nothing in between except for a little bit of sleeping and a little bit of eating. So I'm just running on a lot of coffee these days. So I have read 10 books so far in the first half of November. So I want to talk about them with you. And I had an overall amazing reading time. The majority of these are 4s, and I have my only 5-star read of the year in this wrap up. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into it, and I hope that you find some amazing books because they're pretty darn good. So my lowest rating so far in November is Bloom by Kevin Panetta and Savanna Ganucheau. The reason that this gets 3 stars for me is that I did not like one of the main characters like at all. So this boy is in a band and he really wants to leave his small town behind, and he wants to go and play music, and he really hates that he has to work in his family bakery. And then this boy is in the same town dealing with kind of packing up the house that his grandma lived in because she passed away, and he starts working at the bakery because he really loves to bake, and he's going to university for baking. And they meet, and it's kind of a meet cute, I guess, but this kid is just such a annoying patot that I really I didn't like it. 8 of the books that I read this month were 4 stars, which is just an amazing time so far. So the first one that I want to talk about is Entreat by Grace Draven. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So this one follows Louvain Duenda, who is the older sister in a family where the father has overspent and made bad money decisions, and to keep him out of debtor's prison, the younger sister runs away with a man that she took a liking to, and the older sister doesn't want her younger sister to be ruined, so she chases after them to the castle where they fled to. She realizes that the castle and the lord of the castle and his son are both cursed, and things go from there. This one gets 4 stars for me. It was a quick, easy read, and it had some nice elements, but it was nothing too amazing, too over the top. So for me, it's definitely one of the better Beauty and the Beast retellings, but it's not my all-time favorite. That will come later in this list, so just wait a minute. So my favorite Beauty and the Beast retelling is actually the next 2 books I'm going to talk about, which are the first in a series, but you only have to read these 2 for the Beauty and the Beast elements. So it's Heart of Fae and Veins of Magic by Emma Hamm, and they were so good. I love them. 4 stars. So this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling mixed with Irish mythology, and it is really good. So there is a plague that is sweeping across the human realm where it's the Beetle Plague, where beetles lay eggs and then burrow under your skin, and they pretty much move under your skin. So if you ever watched Fate's Stay Night and the beetles under the skin situation, that's kind of what's happening, and then they eat people and they die. So it's pretty dark. But the main character, Sorcha, decides that she is going to beg a favor from the Fae in the forest. So her mother had a connection with the Fae, and she also kind of has a connection with the Fae, and so she decides she's going to go into the forest, she's going to beg for the cure to the Beetle Plague so that she can save her father and also everyone in her town, the village, the whole human realm. And she gets way more than she bargains for, and she has to go to this isle that is in the Otherworld. It's right on the cusp between the human world and the Fae world. And the whole deal is that on the island, someone called Aemon, who she calls Rock, has been basically banished. The whole thing about Aemon is that wherever he is cut, he shows through purple amethyst geodes, so he can't really be killed. He's having an existential breakdown, and he's on the island, and he doesn't want anyone to come there because he's a beast, and also he just hates everyone. And yeah, when she goes to the island, she starts to see more about the Fae and learn about their culture, and also about Aemon, and just It's so good. Oh my god, it's so good. Okay, and then the second book, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but the first book is kind of like the setup of like the relationship and just things of that nature and world building, and then the second book is where the action kicks off. So, yeah, I highly recommend it if you're into Beauty and the Beast retellings, or if you're into Irish mythology, or you like fantasy, like, please read these two books. So the next book I want to talk about is And Fire Came Down by Emma Viskic. So this is the second in the Caleb Zelic like thriller series. So we are following Caleb Zelic, who is a deaf investigator, and he goes to investigate things that are happening in his hometown where certain buildings are being smashed in, and there's actually like a lynching, and there are crimes against certain Aboriginal communities, and he's trying to figure out what the heck is happening, as well as trying to repair his love life with his estranged wife, as well as wondering what the heck is happening with his partner who he no longer talks to from the first book. So if you like thrillers set in Melbourne, set in Australia, then I really recommend this series. And also the deaf rep is really, really interesting, and just it makes this so intriguing because he notices things that other people don't. So yeah, if this sounds interesting to you, please do read the first one, which is Resurrection Bay, and then this one is the second one. I highly recommend. They are so good, and they're really unique. So I think they're very similar to Jane Harper or Gillian Flynn. So if you like those, maybe check this one out. Okay, listen. These are probably the best motorcycle club romances I have ever read in my whole life. Okay, so I first learned about them from Chandler Aisley's channel, and she was talking about the second book. So I actually read these out of order because I was just waiting to see like if I would like the one that she recommended. So I read the second one, then I read the first one, then I read the third one. Okay, so the first one that I read is actually the second one, and it's Welcome to the Dark Side by Gianna Darling. So this one follows Zeus and Lou. So Zeus is the head of his motorcycle club, and Lou is a young woman. So when we first meet them, there is a shootout between motorcycle clubs / gangs in a church parking lot, and during the shootout, Zeus goes to protect a little like 7-year-old girl, and he shields her with his body, but the bullet still goes like through his body into her. So he turns around and he kills the person who shot him and her, and he ends up going to jail. So this book is absolutely devastating. Like, it has really hard stuff, and I absolutely cried because shit gets more intense from there. So Zeus goes to jail for killing that guy, and you find out that the little girl, she starts to write him in jail, and she calls him like her fallen angel, or her monster, and she thanks him for saving her. Zeus is like, you can't write me, this is weird, like stop writing me. And then the next letter that she sends, it's when she finds out, like when they were taking the bullet out of her, they find out that she has like stage 2 cancer. And so she has to go and stay in the hospital for a really long time, and she's fighting cancer. And so the next letter she sends is a few months later, and she says like, you know, I understand like if you don't want to write back to me, I just wanted to thank you, and they told me like I have cancer, so I'm in the hospital and no one's visiting me, so I thought like maybe we could be pen pals, but if you don't want to, that's fine. And then of course, because Zeus, like, who says no to writing a kid with cancer? Like, you literally can't. Zeus starts writing to Lou, who is 7. So there is an age gap, and I'm just gonna say like nothing untoward happens ever. So he is writing her, and he's in jail, and then she is young, and as she grows up they continue writing. So he kind of helps her through a lot of things in her life. He gets out of jail, she is growing up. So when they first meet in person again, I think she's 17 and he is 34, I think. And he basically watches out for her, and he saves her from a few really dangerous situations, but he's basically like, we can't write anymore. It's weird because you're older and you're like right on the cusp of like being a lady. So he cuts off communication with her essentially. And then when she's a little bit older and he's a little bit older, it's stuff happens, and oh my god, it's so good. Oh my god. So it's right on the edge of, it like flirts with the edge of like, oh, there's like an age gap, and like, oh, he knew her when she was a child, and like, oh, he's like a motorcycle gang leader, and like, oh my god. So yeah, if you like that kind of content, this would be for you. This book is like burned in my memory because so many of the elements are just devastating. After that one, I went back and I read the first one. So the first one is Lessons in Corruption, and it follows Zeus's son named King, and he falls for this woman that he sees across like a grocery store parking lot, and she falls for him, and he meets her at a bar again, and he convinces her to go for a ride on the back of his motorcycle. So they go for a ride up and down the coast, and he's basically wooing her. She is a teacher, and she realizes like after a few weeks that one of her students hasn't been showing up to school, and then he suddenly shows up to school, and wouldn't you know it, it's King. So it's really good. Again, the line between fine and not fine is very blurred because I believe King is 18, so technically an adult. However, the whole power of authority thing is the issue here. Yeah. So that's the first book. And then the third book, which is Good Gone Bad, follows Zeus's daughter, Harley Rose, and a cop who has helped raise Zeus's son and daughter when Zeus was in jail. As he grows up, he keeps protecting Harley Rose because she is just kind of a little bit of a bad girl, like breaking and entering, fighting, like all this kind of stuff. And things go from there when she is attacked by her ex-boyfriend and she ends up killing him in self-defense. So the cop has to help her in that situation, and she has some trauma that she's dealing with. There's also like gang feuds breaking out left and right, and this one also has elements of BDSM. So just if you like darker romantic content, which has some like very fine line walking in the gray area, then these would be for you. They were so good. I highly recommend them. So now I want to talk about my favorite 4-star read of the month so far, and it is The High King's Golden Tongue by Megan Derr. This was a buddy read I did with my friend Nomad. So we follow Prince Alan, who has been kind of molded his whole life to be the perfect partner to the king. So he is trained in the art of the court and of words, and he is also a golden tongue, which he knows like more than I believe like 12 or 13 languages. So he really is great for just dealing with emissaries and like diplomats and that kind of thing. And the High King Zelic, his beloved partner, died a few years ago. So the whole kingdom has been waiting for him to take another lover, like another partner. So his own council has picked Prince Alan to be his consort, and when Prince Alan is brought to the castle, it is absolutely not a meet cute. The king is not impressed because he asked for another warrior, but his council decided instead to give him someone that is his complete opposite and who could like complement him, and he's not having it. So there is some bickering, and it is the opposite of a meet cute. It's like a meet hate. There is some action in this, which is actually pretty violent, so if you can't handle a little bit of gore, then probably don't read it, but this was really good. I highly recommend it. Okay, so we are to my last book that I want to talk about today, and this is actually my favorite book of the year so far. It's the only book I've given 5 stars. The Reckless Oath We Made by Bryn Greenwood. This one is following 2 main characters. So Z is a woman who is kind of trying to keep her world together. So she is working part-time as like a waitress. So she is also trying to take care of her mother, who is very unhealthy and is a hoarder and doesn't like let people in her house, and she just doesn't admit that she has a problem. And she's also trying to take care of her nephew, who is often left behind as her sister goes out and like parties or has a good time. And what happens in this that is like the kickoff moment is her sister is taken hostage when some prisoners break out of jail. So she has to take care of her nephew, take care of her distraught mother, and also try to find out where her sister is. And the person who is by her side through all of this is Gentry. And Gentry is kind of a question mark to her because she met him at physical therapy after she had a motorcycle crash, and he is just an odd duck is the way that I would describe it. So he takes it into his head that he wants to be her paladin, her protector, and it is not sexual at all. It's very much like he wants to help her in any way possible, and it's like an honor oath type situation. And the thing about Gentry is that he is on the autism spectrum, and he also hears voices which tell him to do certain things. And so when she meets him, she is a little bit like, what the heck? But she needs help so much in this situation that she sets out with him to discover who might be holding her sister, how she can help her, what they can do. I just love this book absolutely so much. I might do a full book review of this because I just can't get into it because I will get so emotional and I might cry. Like, this is equivalent to me for Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, All the Ugly and Wonderful Things by Bryn Greenwood, My Absolute Darling by Gabriel Talent, and those are like all of my favorite books of all time. So this is in those ranks. So if you are looking for a book that will completely blow you away and deals with some very heavy topics, then this would be for you. It's a totally unexpected journey and like kind of love story, even though it's not even a romantic love for like the longest time ever. Like, oh my god, it is so good. I highly recommend it. I cannot recommend it highly enough, and I just love it so much. So if this sounds up your alley, please do read it, and please, please, please let me know if you love it. So yeah, I just loved it to pieces, and I'm gonna just stop talking about it. So I know that this was a super long wrap up. I'm really sorry, but not that sorry because all of these books were really good and I wanted to tell you guys about them. So I will chat to you guys later. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Bye!